Welcome or welcome back to this week's Human Design Transit Report. Today is August 8th, and last Saturday we had a new transit that started on the 6th, and we're going to dive into that in some detail today. We're also going to talk about what the upcoming transit, because it's going to happen soon before we get to next Monday. And before we dive into any of that, I want to talk about some big things that have changed that you can be paying attention to that I think are going to be particularly helpful to you. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So the big thing that has happened just recently is that the nodes, the north node and the south node of the moon, have changed position, and they are in whatever position they are in for months at a time. So they have been in the 4323, which is in the knowing circuit, and now they've moved to a different position in the knowing circuit. So the north node is now in the gate 2, which is the gate of allowing. I think of it as a very receptive gate, and it is the where the magnetic monopole is. So it's an attractive force. And then the south node is in gate 1, which is the gate of self-expression or a purpose in quantum human design. And they're going to be there through November 27th. So they're going to be there for months. So what does this mean for us? Well, they're both on the G center. And so the 2 is receiving energy coming up from the sacral. And then the 1 has energy going out towards the throat, coming out of the G center. So they're both heart energy, the center for love, lovability, identity, and direction. And the gate 1 in particular has a lot to do with kind of identity, who we think we are, how we're going to express ourselves, what our purpose in life is. And so the south node in a personal chart, we see as kind of what you came in with, and what we often call it like breathing in. It's what you came with it from your other lives and what you're kind of working with in the first half of your life. And then the north node is the breathing out phase. It's like what you're moving into more and more in your life. And if we just think about how this is going to be working during this transit and how it's affecting us collectively, as well as you individually, with that south node in gate 1, which is about self-expression and purpose, it's about really looking at where we've come so far in our lives and how is that influencing us in terms of what it is that we now want to be expressing and what our purpose is. And then that north node in the gate 2, which is about being able to allow and to receive and to have things coming into us. Now, they're both in the sensing circuit, they're both in the knowing circuit. And so this is individual circuitry. It's here to be different. It's here to bring change. It's mutative. It doesn't fit in. It often doesn't care about fitting in. So this is a time for you to be both really looking at what is your purpose? How do you want to express that as a part of your identity, as part of who you know, who you are in the world, how you really want to show up, right? And then how are you allowing in more wealth, more resources, more insights, more understanding, and how is that going to be then fueling your self-expression and your purpose? Now, interestingly enough, coming up, starting on August 11th and going through the 20th, so it's a relatively short transit, Mars is going to be in the gate 8. Now, the gate 8 is the mate of the gate 1. So the 1 comes up off of the G center, and then the 8 is on the throat. So that's going to create a complete channel here. And that's going to define the G center for those of you who have an open G, and it's also going to define the throat for those of us who have an open throat. And this channel is about this, again, this purpose, this self-expression, and then it's moving into the gate of contribution, which is how are we giving forth out into the world. And so Mars is our spiritual warrior energy. This is more knowing circuit. This is more evolutionary energy, more leading edge. And so particularly during this transit from the 11th to the 20th, when Mars is there, you have an opportunity to be, again, kind of digging into what is the purpose that you have here, and how does that purpose, which is really kind of a personal thing, right? It's on the G center. It's about your identity, because the sense of purpose is kind of an internal sense. But then it moves into that gate of contribution, which is how you're putting that out into the world. So you're going to have that one there for quite some time, but this transit of Mars in that 8 is going to give you even more understanding of how do you want to be that spiritual warrior to make your contribution out into the world. Okay, let's dig into the current transit of the Sun and the Earth. So as I said earlier, this started on Saturday, August 6th, and then we're going to have another transit that starts coming this Friday on the 12th, and I'm going to talk about that a little later. So right now the Sun is in the gate 7, which is in the logic circuit. It's also on the G center. Actually, both of the Sun and the Earth gates are also on the G center. So we've got a lot going on the G center. So we've got the gate 7, and then we've got the Earth in the gate 13. And let's just take a look here at this image of the G center. So you can see there's a lot lit up here, because we've got, the 1, the 2, we've got the 7 and the 13. So there's a lot of activity going on here in this G center. And it's interesting because where the Sun and the Earth are this time are collective circuitry. So the 7 is in the logic or the understanding or the pattern circuit, which is what it's called in quantum human design. And the 13 is in the sensing circuit or the miracle circuit, which is what it's called in quantum human design. So we've got this collective energy juxtaposed to this individual circuitry that the nodes are lighting up. So there's a lot of activity happening here in this G center. And so the 7 is in traditional human design. I was originally taught about this to call it the chief of staff, okay? Because the idea here in this channel of the alpha, where the 7 connects to the 31, is the idea that this is the chief of staff to the leader or the president, which is what's on the throat, which is what the 31 is. Well, in quantum human design, it's been renamed as collaboration, and the 31, which is its mate, is more democracy or the democratic leader. And so we've got an evolution of our understanding about what this particular channel is and what this particular gate is. And so it's this energy for how do we work together collectively, right? So this is going to influence us in terms of all of our relationships, because it's going to influence both things that are close in, but also things that are big in the world. Like, how do we, as a municipality, collaborate inside of that? How do we collaborate with other municipalities? How do different states collaborate with each other? How do different nation states collaborate with each other? How do different corporations or organizations collaborate with each other? And so you can look at what you might be a part of and see if there's a place for you where you can be stepping into more opportunities to collaborate. Collaboration is so significant for this time here on planet Earth that it is pillar number 7 of feminine sovereignty, because feminine sovereignty moves beyond just personal sovereignty, which is where we build the power within so that we can be fully in command of our own energy field, our emotions, our thoughts, how we're showing up in life, right? So that's the first 4 pillars of feminine sovereignty. But then we move out into the world, and how do we engage and interact with each other in ways that are mutually beneficial? And so pillar number 7 is mutually beneficial collaborations. And you can be looking at your own life in terms of how can you be creating more collaborations, or how can you participate in collaborations that are maybe bigger, that are already going on, but that you can step into a role, or you can take a bigger role in terms of helping us to really learn how to get over the challenges that we might have, the ways that we judge each other, to be able to accept that we have different points of view, but that doesn't mean we have to be enemies or that we have to fight, and that we can find points of common interest and common values that we can use to build our collaborations from. Now, interestingly enough, this energy of collaboration is sitting on the foundation of where the Earth is. And the Earth is in the gate 13, which is also in the G center, and it's part of the sensing or the miracle circuit. And the name of the gate 13 in traditional human design is listener. The listener, it's kind of like the witness. And in quantum human design is narrative, because even though it's the listener, it's also a storytelling gate. And the idea is that here we take in other people's stories and then we turn them into a narrative that is beneficial for the collective, because again, this is collective circuitry. But it's not logical, it's not reasonable, it's not rational, which is more what the 7 is, right? And the 7 is an expert at seeing patterns. It's much more creative, experiential, embodied, right-brained. And so storytelling definitely sits inside of this circuit because it pulls on our imaginative and our creative abilities to be able to express the story. So part of what we want to be able to do is to listen and to take in other people's perspectives so that we can create a story that includes all of us and works for all of us. And that can then be the basis for collaborations that are mutually beneficial. We're currently living in a highly polarized environment, whether that's politically, economically, in so many different areas, racially, in terms of, gender identity, and just so many places where we have polarization. And so during this transit, we're receiving a lot of energetic support to move beyond our isolated fiefdoms, our us versus them way of thinking, to be able to move into something that can be more inclusive, that can take into account more of the collective, where we can create stories that work for all of us, and that can then be a basis for collaboration. Then this coming Friday on August 12th, the sun is going to move into the gate 4 and the earth is going to move into the gate 49. Now the gate 4 is also on the logic circuit or the pattern circuit, just like the gate 7 was. So our sun is continuing to light up this logical circuitry, which is also collective. So the gate 4 in traditional human design is known as the gate of answers, and in quantum human design is known as the gate of possibilities. Now this is an interesting juxtaposition because in traditional human design, this gate is receiving from the gate of doubt, which is a pretty negative way to think about this. Like, we're doubting and now we need to know what the answers are, and how do we know what we know? Can we make sure that we get the answers in the logical, analytical way, right? And the ajna tends to be kind of analytical anyway. It's where the thinking mind is. But I really like the way it's been renamed in quantum human design, which is more about curiosity and possibilities. So what that does is it really opens up what's happening here at the beginning of the logic or the pattern circuit, rather than closing it down and making it more myopic. Now the thing is that the left brain energy actually is a bit more of focal gaze. Okay, it is more focused that way, whereas the right brain energy is more expansive and more spatial. So there is a quality of that that's just built into left brain energy of being a little bit more focused, right? And like working in the sagittal plane, if you know what that is, right? It's the forward back plane. And we can still open up to possibilities and potential answers that are coming in from superconsciousness through the beginning of that channel, that circuit. But at the same time, we don't want to kind of close things down. We don't want to be doubting things. We don't want to be demanding answers. Instead, we want to be opening up possibilities and seeing, kind of being like, I wonder about this. I wonder about that. What if that were true? I wonder, about this. And, the very best science is always based on a curious question. It's like, oh, I'm observing this thing in nature. I have a question about that. I'm curious about that. Let's then investigate. Let's create a hypothesis and then let's test it. But it starts with possibility, not with trying to lock things down. And it's always about testing, right? Because we don't know things for sure until we test them. And, the right brain often says, and even then, that's only one way of understanding things, right? Okay. And then the Earth is moving into the gate 49, which is the gate of principles in traditional human design, or the gate of revolution in quantum human design. Now, the Earth is going to be joining Saturn there. And Saturn has been in and will continue to be in this gate 49. If you have not had a chance to go and watch my video about Saturn's cycle right now and the Saturn retrograde, I would really encourage you to go and check that out when you get a chance, because I go much more deeply into what Saturn is really teaching us right now, what it's lighting up, what it's exhorting us to be paying attention to. And so you'll learn more about the gate 49 there, and also about what it means that Saturn is there. So during this transit, we're also going to have the Earth here. So part of what this is telegraphing to us is that we want to be grounding ourselves in this. This is a channel and a gate about relationship. It's in the tribal circuit. Tribal circuitry is all about community. It's about our relationships with each other. And it's also in the commerce subcircuit of the tribal circuit. So that has to do with like our negotiations with each other, right? And this particular gate is about what are the principles upon which our relationships are built. And it connects to the 19, which is a very sensitive gate. And so there's this sense of, how do we create intimacy, right? What are the principles upon which we can have intimacy, and how do we need to renovate or revolutionize our relationships so that they are really working for the tribe, so that they're working for us individually, or they're working for us in a larger kind of tribal sense, not so much collective. This isn't like that really big collective energy like in the last transit, and also in the gate 4, which is much more collective circuitry. But so this Earth is really grounding the lessons that Saturn is bringing us, and really re-emphasizing and saying, okay, pay attention to this. What's going on in your relationships? Are they working for you on the basis of principles, values, ways of understanding what you think is beneficial in relationships, or not? And if not, how can you up-level them? How can you revolutionize them so that they do work? And Saturn is just beaming and beaming and beaming energy on this particular topic. Now, if we think of this as the basis for this inquiry about possibilities, right, which is what the sun is lighting up, we can be seeing that the sun is also shining on this Earth and saying, well, what are the possibilities for this revolution in your relationship, right? What are new possibilities? You can be receiving understanding from superconsciousness about this, so that then you can be grounding yourself in those relationships and knowing that you can receive understandings about this. You don't have to just figure it out, even though the left brain likes to figure things out. You can be plugged into the flow of life, and the flow of life can be bringing you more possibilities for how you can really enrich your relationships. So we've got a lot of potent energy already happening and coming up in the next 10 days or so. And I really encourage you, if you have an open throat or an open G, to check out the Mars transit that's happening, that's going to define that G center, and for some of us are going to define our throats, and see what happens. Okay, that's my transit report for this week. Many blessings, much love. Bye for now.